morning. There's this ancient story told in the Hebrew scriptures in their book of origins, Genesis. It's a story of a group of people who pool their resources and their ingenuity. And they build this city, and in the midst of the city, they build a tower. Bricks and mortar upon bricks and mortar. And the idea goes that above the earth is the sky, the dome of the sky that sits neatly on the mountains. And above that are the heavens, the realm of the gods, where the gods dwell and live and play and do what gods do. If they can build a tower high enough up through the dome of the sky, they too can dwell in the heavens with the gods and be godlike. We read that story, and I guess we read it with a touch of cynicism or scoffing, mocking. We know from space exploration telescopes that the sky is just the atmosphere of the earth. Beyond that is space. Deep space goes on and on, beyond what we can measure. Stars and galaxies and planets and moons and comets and black holes and all this mysterious stuff that's out there. It's so vast we can't measure it. It's not the realm of the gods, it's space. And we look upon these ancient people, perhaps mocking, laughing. And yet, when I look around, humans build our own towers. We build our buildings not into the heavens, but into the sky. Big towers, trying to outdo other towers, looking down on the world. There's people who build their empires. Empires of corporate nature, corporate empires, vast and taking over other businesses and trying to take over the market. Media moguls building their media empire, swallowing up the smaller entities and trying to influence the way people think and understand, controlling the way that news comes to them and information. Trying to influence governments and elections. We build our wealth, we build our power, we build our need to control things. We want to be godlike, all present, all knowing, all powerful even. There are megalomaniacs, narcissistic megalomaniacs in our world, ruling nations and collections of nations. Vladimir Putin, trying to control his part of the world and grow it, feeling himself invincible, that his armies will win. And it doesn't matter who he hurts in the process. Now, I don't know about the people in this ancient story. I'm guessing there were some who led this. They would be the ones who would climb the tower and find their way into the heavens. And the plebs would build the tower and sacrifice life and limb in this construction. That's how it is. But the story goes on, and it says that God, their God, saw what was happening and decided that this wasn't good. That humans in their ingenuity, if they pooled their ideas and resources and could accumulate enough resources together, they were capable of all sorts of things, for good or evil. And the story goes that God looked down and in order to prevent this, created language, diversity of language, and dispersed people across the earth. Now I don't know, is it a story of the origins of culture and ethnic diversity, of language diversity? Is it a story warning of what humans can do when we work together? Is it a wisdom story that invites us to think about what we're capable of if we work together? And that there is a diversity of people in the world who have different perspectives and experiences and see through the lens of different culture, who have different language to describe things in different ways, different words. to explain and describe their experience and their world. And maybe it's only as we bring this diversity together in humility, seeking the best in each, that we can create something that is worthwhile, that is good, that serves humanity and the earth in the best ways possible. It's a wonderful story, and I think it's a challenging story for our world, because our world is filled of empires and people who are building and building and building, trying to be godlike and control their lives and the lives of others and the life of the world. And it brings much harm and devastation to people's lives. There's another story that we read this week, which is another perhaps less ancient story, coming from the time of the 1st century. And it's around a Jewish festival, the festival of Shavuot or Pentecost, the week of weeks, the festival of weeks, 50 days, Penti, 50 days after the Passover. This festival of Shavuot was a festival of the first fruits of the harvest, celebrating the harvest, the gift of harvest. But it also celebrated the giving of the law, the receiving of the law by the people, their ancestors, the formation of this nation under Moses, who received the law on Mount Sinai. And that story, that ancient story, is surrounded by mystery and wonder. This divine God comes and is experienced in lightning and thunder, wind and fire and cloud, and mystery on a mountain. And using those kinds of metaphors and images, Luke tells a story of this day of Pentecost, where the followers of Jesus, 120 or so of them all, gathered together as they did regularly to pray, to worship together, to sing, to read their scriptures and hear the stories and teaching of Jesus, and how he unfolded the Jewish faith and freed it from the literalism and the belief systems and the legalism that has surrounded it, and served the few over the whole, and how he spoke of love and grace and justice and peace for all people, how he included people and created a community of inclusion and justice and peace. And as they were praying in this place, Luke describes the Spirit of God coming upon them, and uses these images of like tongues of fire, like the wind rushing through and resting on the people. And these people who were scared and uncertain and confused and grieving and hopeful and waiting for what God might do next, receive this Spirit. And those who cowered away from the world, fearful of what the Romans might do or anyone else might do, suddenly spoke out. And people had gathered in Jerusalem for this celebration from all over the empire, speaking different languages from different cultures, celebrating this common Jewish faith. And as these followers spoke out in new ways, the people from across the empire heard this gospel, this good news, this story of love, this story of grace, this story of liberation, of life and hope and inclusion. They heard that in their own language, in their own forms, in a way that they could receive it and accept it or reject it. Some accepted it and they followed, they joined in. But others scoffed and scorned and said, "Look at these, they're drunk, 9 o'clock in the morning." And Peter gets up and explains, he says, "We're not drunk. This is what God promised back then, that the Spirit of God would come upon people, and the old would dream their dreams, and so would the young. They would see visions of this reign of God, this hope, this peace, this reign of love in the world that would transform things and bring life to all people. A reign of equality and justice and hope and peace." And so many gathered and joined in, and many others laughed and scoffed and rejected. And so it is in our world, but what I hear in these stories is this sense of the diversity that people need to hear this story of love, the experience of the divine, the experience of the sacred, the experience of the holy, in a language and form that touches their lives, that is real. It's not just about things we believe and think, but our heart stories, spoken in the language of the heart. And people are free to choose to reject or accept, to follow in this way of hope, or to reject it. But what it also tells me is that when we share in this diversity, when we bring the gifts and the skills and the resources and experiences of people, and we speak of it in our own language, out of our own culture, out of our own experience, and when we share those experiences, we get a bigger picture of what might be, of how the earth might benefit, how all people can grow together, how those who have too little can have what they need, of how we can share resources and food and water and medicines and education for the well-being of all people, and how together we can face and confront the biggest issues that face our earth, our human race, issues of conflict and war, issues of climate change and environmental degradation, refugees. If we work together, if we share our diversity and our experience together, surely we can make a difference, a positive difference in our world. We can make a difference that's about love and justice. We can change the way things are and help them become what they can be. If we work together out of humility, out of sharing and equality, out of listening and bringing the best that we each have to offer. These are stories that I think our world needs to hear. They're challenging stories, and they're stories that confront us and cost us something. But if we don't listen, if we don't follow in this way, what will that cost us? What will that cost the earth? Jesus invites us into the way of love, a way in which all of us can participate and bring our very best and become our very best and help our world flourish.